Tina Dupuy, and you're watching TYT Network. We're going to go straight into this. The House has been in session for less than a month. The GOP-controlled House, and they've already introduced 14 pieces of legislation to try and limit abortion rights. So what I wanted to talk about today is what it's like to live in a country where you don't have the right to privacy, which is what Roe versus Wade decided. That the government has to stay out of your body. That if you get pregnant, the government is not going to be making sure that you bring that child to term, or that pregnancy to term. And on the phone, we have two women from an organization called Women on Waves. Women on Waves sails to countries where abortion is illegal. This is done at the invitation of local women's organizations. They use a ship to give early medical abortions and to provide safe and professional safe and professional care. Women on Waves aims to prevent unsafe abortions and empower women to exercise their human rights to physical and mental autonomy by combining free healthcare services and sexual education with advocacy. And on the phone with us, we have Susan Davies and Kinga Jelinska. And they are both project coordinators with Women on Waves, and they've been doing this for the last 12 years, since 1999. Ladies, are you with me? Can you hear me?
Hi, how are you? Yes,
Good.
We can hear you.
Great.
Hey, Tina, how are you? Thank you for having us on the show on this very important topic. We're glad you're talking about it. It's really important.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Could you walk us through? Now we're going to show a visual here of the countries where abortion is criminalized. That women can go to prison for having an abortion, and I wanted you to walk us through what is it like to live in a country where abortion is a crime.
Well, first of all, I want to just start out by saying that abortion is a very normal and common event in the life of a woman. So what we're talking about is not an exceptional or rare situation. So it's really an issue that affects all women. Globally, the average number of abortions per woman in her lifetime is 1 per woman. In the U.S., that's 1 in 3 women have an abortion, but globally, the average is every woman has an abortion on average. So what we're talking about is something that really affects every woman. And as you can also tell by these statistics, the number of abortions do not drop when abortion is criminalized or when barriers are put up. The number of abortions is actually relatively consistent. So basically, you don't lessen the number of abortions, but what you do is change the circumstances that women are in when they have to seek an abortion.
And these women in these countries, we're showing right now, it's an up-and-coming documentary called The Vessel. We're showing, this is Chile, I believe. And what do these women have to do in these countries in order to get healthcare services? What are their options?
Well, if you're talking about abortion, their options are basically to try to find an underground or clandestine clinic. And that basically means that they have to try to navigate very uncertain circumstances. It could mean that they end up in the hands of unqualified people who are going to be operating on them and putting them at grave risk to their health and their life. It could mean that depending on how much money they have to pay, they have to be able to pay, they can sometimes access a safe clinic, and sometimes they have to leave the country to go someplace else. But the vast majority of the people are either going to have to pay a lot of money for an unsafe clinic, or they could try to self-induce abortion, which can also be very risky. Women use all sorts of unsafe methods to self-induce abortion, including inserting sharp objects into their uterus, and that can lead to uterine perforations and infections and can lead them to die, basically. And if you're talking about Chile, Chile is one of the few countries that have very restrictive laws that prohibit abortion, even in cases where the woman's life is in grave danger, or in cases of rape, or in cases of where the fetus will never become a living baby.
And how are the activists in these countries treated? The women's groups that you guys partner with, are they at risk? Are the authorities aware of them? I mean, how are they treated?
Basically, the government, because of the criminalization around abortion, there is a climate of fear around talking about abortion. The activists that we partner with are doing advocacy, and they're also giving women scientific information that will allow them to have a safe abortion as opposed to an unsafe abortion themselves in their house using a pharmaceutical. But, and so generally they're not performing a risky operation because all they're doing is giving information. But generally, just because of the social and political climate, there's just a lot of fear about bringing the subject up.
And as you mentioned, Gina, what is very visible is what you summarized so well, is that all these barriers that in the U.S., in several states, people are trying to impose, this is a question of politics. This is not a question of health of women. This is purely a question of politics. And the only thing that barriers actually do, if you look globally at all the countries where abortion is restricted, they create a pandemic, a silent pandemic of unsafe abortion, because women have abortions anyway. The only matter that we are discussing is whether they're going to have it safely, in dignity, in respectful, comprehensive environment, or they will be treated as criminals that have to search for unsafe methods, and therefore also it brings us to the topic that the access to safe abortion essentially is a matter of social justice, because it's the advantage, socially advantaged women that will always have options because they can pay an illegal provider, they can find a doctor. It's the poorer women, women that cannot access infrastructure so easily that will suffer the most. And this is exactly what is seen in global statistics published by the World Health Organization, that basically the terrible statistic is that one woman in every 8 minutes dies because of unsafe abortion. And this is not created because they suffer of the condition that is untreatable. This is purely created by barriers, unreasonable barriers, and wrong politics.
Wow. We are almost out of time. I have one question left for you guys, and that's, it says on your website, if you live in a country where abortion is still legal, to leave these resources to other women who don't have them. Do you get a lot of calls and a lot of emails from women in the U.S.?
We do, yeah, because actually there are financial barriers in the U.S. that lead women, because there is no public funding for abortion or very little public funding for abortion. A lot of women have a hard time accessing abortion, and especially because there's a lot of limited options as far as clinics. Women that live far away from clinics have a hard time making that journey, especially with the barriers put up about waiting periods and about multiple visits. And if you have to travel a day or so to get to a clinic, then that makes it impossible, but also just the cost of clinics, because, as I said before, it's a problem that affects at least 1 in 3 women, and that's a very substantial part of the population. Abortion is the most practiced gynecological intervention that there is, and the fact that it's not covered by the health system and is actually such a common situation in the lives of women is just amazing.
It's a scandal,
basically. And so of course, a lot of women have a really hard time accessing the clinics that are there already.
Susan Davies and Kinga Jelinska, you guys are fantastic. Thank you so much for your time. And this has been very educational talking to you. And thank you for your work.